This is Law of Attraction Explored. I'm Tim Grimes. Some of you are probably wondering about my coaching, so I thought I would just take a minute to explain what it is that I offer. What I do with people is get real deep. And what do I mean by we get deep? Well, if you've been listening to this podcast, you know exactly what I mean when I say that. The kind of coaching that I offer is meant to transform your life. And I feel very confident that it will transform your life and that you'll enjoy doing it. And if you don't, to be frank, you don't have to pay me. I like working with people who want to go deep, people who are willing to explore what's going on the inside and realize that there's nothing wrong with them and that what is going on the inside is actually good. And dare we say it, what's going on the inside is actually God. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, you can always email me at info@radicalcounselor.com, or you can just go to my website, radicalcounselor.com. And I hope you enjoyed the episode. So I'm not sure if this is going to be more like a meditation episode or a good old rant. It might be both. This is a very odd subject we're talking about, the law of attraction. And one reason that it's so odd and so perplexing is that people who get into it don't treat it as odd and perplexing. Obviously, when you first discover the secret or whatever initially, exposed you to the law of attraction, it seems amazing and fantastic. And then when you actually get into the deeper teachings like Neville or Florence Scovel Shinn or Joseph Murphy, or even, someone like Abraham Hicks, you get into that stuff and you see that there's some real validity, deep validity to what the secret was saying. And you're like, oh my God, this isn't just like some superficial thing. This is like a deep psychological, emotional, spiritual thing that's going on within us. It blows you away when you have that initial realization. And we've all had that. If you're listening to this show, I don't think I'm talking to many people who are not believers in the power of the law of attraction, or whatever you want to call it, manifesting principles, basically. But what's weird is that people get into these principles, they get into the law of attraction, and then they get too used to the language that's being used, the descriptions. Like, I actually think it's silly that we use the word law so much when it comes to this stuff, like the law of attraction, the law of reversed effort, the law of assumption, all these laws. Like, there's all these, I think Deepak Chopra has a book with like the 7 laws of something or the other, and it involves law of attraction stuff. Why you want to get all legal about it, man? Why do we want to set all these terms and conditions to what we're talking about? Obviously, you need to have some kind of a framework, right, to understand this stuff. You need some kind of a background and framework to ground your understanding on what we're discussing. But once you have that, you really have to be loose in terms of the words you use and what's being said about these principles or ideas. Principles or ideas are probably a more accurate way to describe this stuff than laws. Universal law. Ay. It's all well and good. It's just we get stuck on these terms. Like, I mentioned this an episode or two ago. Like, for instance, you go on YouTube and there's all these people debating the difference and the benefits of the law of attraction versus the law of assumption. Do you know how fucking stupid you sound when you are debating the difference between those two things? Like, there's no difference. Those are just terms we use. They're not actual laws, right? I mean, people just buy into this idea of law, the best way to practice, the best technique, the best approach. Total baloney. You got to get so fucking far beyond that in order to implement this stuff into your life in a fulfilling way. Consistently, at least. You got to get beyond the language. I mean, sure, you can make a big deal about whether you're attracting something or assuming something, but that misses the bigger fucking point. And what's perplexing is that people get into the law of attraction and then they forget this. They get stuck in their ways, they become obsessed with Abraham Hicks or obsessed with Neville or obsessed with some certain technique. And they're so close-minded that it really limits their ability a lot of the time to utilize this stuff effectively in their own life. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're really into Abraham Hicks and Abraham Hicks works for you really, really well, just keep on using Abraham Hicks. But that's not what I'm discussing. What I'm saying here is that we obsess over a certain teacher or teaching or technique, and we forget that almost all of these teachers and techniques and teachings meld together in some deep way. And, that's what this show is about a lot of the time. All these different approaches, it's like the same thing, usually, just described in different ways. And we like some better than others, right? We have our own personal preferences. That's all normal, right? It's normal to have preferences and teachers you prefer, techniques that work for you and that you think are better or the best. But they're just for you. Like when I say Coué is the best teacher, you think I mean that seriously? You think I'm going to get into a fist fight with you if you say someone else is the best teacher? I don't give a fuck. Like, this is such a stupid thing to talk about, but we have to talk about it because people get so stuck in their ways. And the law of attraction, these principles or these concepts, these ideas, a lot of it's just about being fluid and open and expansive to whatever works for you, and getting turned on by different ideas and interpreting these ideas in different ways, It's like I say, you throw a bunch of stuff onto the board and then you see what sticks and what falls off. And you know what? Most stuff's going to fall off. But guess what? A few things are going to stick. So, it's very easy for me to discuss two seemingly different ideas or laws in the same conversation because I don't see them as being that different. I don't see them as being diametrically opposed. I just see them as different approaches. And sure, we're going to have a bunch of stuff we disagree with, but that doesn't mean that we have to, criticize the teaching harshly or anything like that. Just take what works for you and forget the rest. And as I've often said, most of the stuff might not work for you, even with the best teachers. But there is some stuff that probably is going to work. And there's going to be some principles that are going to deeply affect you. And I was thinking about this today because last episode we were discussing active affirming, really actively affirming what you want, which can be very effective for some people. And we discussed why that can be so effective for a lot of people. And then today I was thinking about and reflecting on, I forget the exact term, but, Catherine Ponder discusses creating a vacuum. I think the law of a vacuum or something like that. That's not the right term, but nature abhors a vacuum. Maybe we'll discuss that in a later episode. And it's all about making space, just clearing out what you don't want, and what you do want naturally comes in. Kind of like what we discussed with Richard Dotson, Dissolve the Problem. But anyway, actively affirming, just saying what you want over and over again throughout the day consistently, and creating a vacuum, dissolving the problem, they're seemingly diametrically opposed concepts when we look at them at face value. But if we just get a little bit deeper, we'll see there's many more similarities than differences between them. And I'm not going to go over that now. Either you get what I'm saying when I say this or you don't. And I don't mean to sound harsh, but again, just for a minute, let's drop our thinking mind and just sink into this moment. Right now is happening. And right now, if I'm just here with it, and I'm not thinking about it, but I'm just here right now, I'm present. And from this space, if I then want to, it's very easy for me to see the benefits or to utilize something like active affirming. And from this space of just being here in the present moment, just here right now, it's very easy for me to create a vacuum and to dissolve the problem and let something naturally fill its space that's better than the current negativity that may be there that we previously perceived. This is why I always say get deep. When we get deep, when we get present, when we're real with ourselves, when we're in this moment and not thinking about something in the past or well in the future, when we're just here now, we really recognize the fluid, dynamic power of these teachings. You know, and speaking of Catherine Ponder, her most famous book, The Dynamic Laws of Prosperity. The dynamic laws of prosperity. So again, there's that word law. But if you put dynamic in front of it, I like using the term law a lot more because it's dynamic. It's changing. Transformational. It's not set in stone. It's not, oh, this law is better than this law, or this works, this doesn't work. None of that matters. Get beyond all that. And how do we get beyond all that? We just get present. And as you know, that's easier to do than you think. We can just be present right now.